all seen this. This is my permanent drain line system on my 75 gallon. Works a dream. Let me interrupt this right about here. So yeah, I'm saying it works a dream. What doesn't work a dream was this piece here. This is the hose fitting. It's pipe thread up at the top, garden hose thread there at the bottom. All right, so the garden hose is going where my little finger is. This went on to that fitting right there, that male adapter. Well, it's always leaked, and it's always leaked right here in between these fittings. Doesn't matter how many hose washers or how many different hose washers I put in there, it's still leaked here. Hashtag crap made in China. All right, that's what that comes down to. So I took it off and I was going to put it back on. In the process, I cross-threaded this. Now I've got to cut this off and put a new male adapter on, and I'm going to get a PVC one of these, and hopefully it's better. So back to the story. Water goes up through this filter here, up and over, back down, across. There's a shut-off valve, and that's a garden hose fitting. So I hook a garden hose up to this, run it out to the front lawn. If I turn this valve, water will come out because there's water from here to there. There's a permanent siphon going on. All right, so that's the magic of this. Now, I tried to do it on my rack here. I've got this set up with these. Now this one's not even in the tank anymore. Now let's put that over. Whoops, I just knocked the fish cold, I think. All right, so it goes from inside the tank, up and over, past the valve, out the end here, out to the, through a garden hose, out to the lawn. I isolated this side with this valve. Then I isolated this side with this valve. All right. And then the bottoms, you see all those black hoses down there and all the blue valves comes around, and I isolated that side with this valve, and it goes out. And this valve here isolates the whole system. So it doesn't, whatever's left anywhere doesn't just drain on the floor. Does anyway. So I'm not sure what's going on. I don't know if the valves are just not great and they leak. I know when on the fill side, coming up here, when it goes off here, this valve back here, when it's in the off position and there's water pressure in this, it leaks. So if I'm not careful and I've already filled this tank when I'm doing a water fill, it overflows. So I've got to remember not to fill this tank last. I have to remember to fill this tank last, because this valve's just gonna drip. So I'm not sure if that's the problem or if all the fittings leak around the hoses, if that's what's going on. Because what I am trying to do is create this permanent drain system on this side. So originally, after I built it all, I hooked the garden hose up down there. I turned the water on and filled this whole system, all the tanks. I opened each valve. I pushed all the air out of all the this is drip irrigation. I pushed all the air out of this drip irrigation tubing, past the valves, into the tank, and when it was water flowing, I shut the valve off. So ideally, that isolated water between this valve and into the tank. And then down here, same, isolated water from this valve into the tank. And then with this valve in the shut-off position, theoretically, this whole line was filled with water. So once I opened that valve, and open the valve at the bottom, water should start to flow out of these tanks onto the front lawn. It's not happening because they're sucking air. I talked about this in my most recent fish room update video, and oddly enough, I had a comment on the video when I built this mess. I've had other problems with it where the water side, the inflow, the new water side, actually a couple fittings blew. So I started putting these stainless steel hose clamps in, and I've still got a bunch, and you can see I've got one up here, and I've got two more across the top. I don't have this one on yet. So I need to just put hose clamps on all that. That side seems to work pretty well, except for that one buggered valve. So what I'm gonna do is take those same stainless steel hose clamps and put them on every fitting in the hopes of keeping, here we are, every fitting, in the hopes of keeping water in the system. Wish me luck. I've got a bunch of them here. This is allegedly 1/2-inch drip irrigation line. I don't know what it really is. Actually, it's not. I take that back. It's 0.6 inside diameter and 0.7 outside diameter. And I've got and those are the fittings, the valves that are supposed to fit this, these dig valves. If I ever did this again, I would go to these are from Home Depot. I would go to a commercial irrigation supply house and buy everything there, Rainbird or Toro. I would stick with Rainbird. That's what I know and that's what I like, and I should have. And I've got these stainless steel worm drive hose clamps, and they are 3/8 to 7/8. So they'll tighten down to about 3/8 of an inch or open up to about 7/8 of an inch. So what I've got to do though to make this work now is open every one of these I've got to open every one of these hose clamps and wrap it around the pipe and then tighten it back up. So it's not tough, it's just time consuming. So I'll show you how I'm going to do this. It occurs to me I should probably be using my microphone, but I'm not. So I've got a nut driver here, and it is, I don't know where it says the size on it. Yep, 5/16 on the stem of the nut driver here. You probably can't see that. I wouldn't be surprised. Anyway, it's 5/16, and that'll fit that screw. It'll go right over it. And then I'll back these off. You can use a power drill with a power nut driver. Back this all the way off, and we'll do this one here because it's right here in camera. So now that it's open, got to open that up, wrap it around, and just open this as wide as I could without bending it, ruining it. And then got to stick this back in here and start twisting down on this, and ideally trying to get the worm drive to catch the teeth. And there it goes, and it's tightening up. There should be a way to do this so that way it's not going to interfere with the valve. So if I put it on this side, it's going to interfere, and if I put it back here, it should be all right. It's going to be hitting this tank though. So, and if I put it on the other side, it's probably going to be hitting that tank. So I'm going to back this off. That's all part of it. Let's put this on in a different direction. So you got to kind of think about what direction you want this thing to go on. Now it's tightening down. Tighten it past. I use these nylon clips that are kind of friction fit, and the ones I got are absolute garbage. So I'm putting this on in the back, and I'm going to cinch this down. And ideally now, if air was getting past this, it shouldn't anymore. That I don't particularly care is this is hitting the tank. And I guess as long as it's not moving, it shouldn't do anything evil to the tank. So now I got to do all of these. And there are, let me get you back off the tripod. There's a lot. So for this part of the system, down to this part, all the way up and over, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 times 7 is what, 63. And then below that, there's 2. So 2, there's 4. We'll just go to that valve, 6. And the other side, 8, 10, 12, plus this elbow, so 14. And that got us to here. So 14 plus the 63. On the other side back here, there's 5 tanks, so 1 at the end. So there's 2, and then the T's, 4, all the way down at the end. There's the elbow, so 2, and then the T, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 more, if I'm counting that right. So that's 28, 30, 32, 34, and 1 is 35. Then around that valve, 36, 37, and below that it really doesn't matter. So 37 of those hose clips. And there are 10 in a bag, and I have 4 bags here. So ideally I have enough. This was originally all to go on the water incoming side. So we'll just get it done, see if it makes a difference. So instead of opening these things one at a time, just open a whole bunch at once. Save you some time, and then you can put them on one at a time. A little helpful hint from Eloise. So one thing you want to do, this is not pretty, is it? But is to make sure you've got these hose clamps oriented in the right direction. I just had these 2 with the screw part on top, and that thickness, where's one here? The thickness from my thumb up to the top of this thing was causing this not to be able to go over the top of the tank. Yeah, they're a tight fit, but still. And once these are cinched down, they don't turn, so it's all about orienting them. And at the bottoms of these things, I had put these, the large aquarium co-op pre-filters to keep stuff from getting sucked up, you know, shrimp, fish, like that. So anyway, that's kind of it, just all about the orientation. This one, these here, not my favorite. Not sure what to do about that. I guess I can take those off and put them around the other side maybe. That might be the thing to do here. And then they sort of compete with each other for space too if you're not watching it. Especially in a situation like a T down here. And they were competing for space, but now they're all right there because I turned these two upside down. Okay, so to get these restarted, take this part here and just make sure it lines up above this part here, right under the screw. Hold it, squeeze it. You got to. Anyway, yeah, start tightening down and it starts threading. So that's all there is to that. Let me tell you a couple things here. To get this one in here, right behind the valve, instead of trying to start it right behind the valve, just start up here and then cinch it up as much as you need to get over that little hump right here. Get it down there, then tighten it up. Keep it simple. So this one is done. There's the two here, and what I had to do was flip those upside down, and I decided to turn this one. It was over on this side, get it away from the tank. I pushed this little 5-gallon tank back out of the way. Same thing, I got this one up here pointing out this way, so it's behind the valve. And I'll tell you what, once these are cinched, there's no more twisting the pipe. So that makes me think that's what was happening. That air was getting in around these because I had to loosen this one so I could turn this the angle I needed to get it back into the tank. Same thing with this one, wasn't on yet. This was the last one I put on, so I could twist it vertically that angle. Let's find a pre-filter. All right, there's a pre-filter. So now that the pre-filter's in, I'm probably gonna have to move a plant that's down under it. So here's another little helpful hint. Some people might be inclined to trim these, get a pair of tin snips or whatever and cut these off, and what you're gonna end up with is a razor sharp chunk of metal. I would just leave them as they are. That's what I'm gonna do. I suppose you could put some tape over it or something to protect it if you do trim it, but more work. I would just leave it as, that's my 2 cents on that. Well, it's done. I finally got all the hose clamps on all the drain, all the way down to just above that valve. There's no reason to go below it because the pressure should hold at that valve and all the other valves. And if it's still failing, then it's one of the valves that's leaking air. And I wouldn't be at all surprised because I already showed you this valve up here that leaks water. This was about the dumbest thing I've ever done. I think I've got probably over $200 in stainless steel 3/8 by 7/8 hose clamps from Home Depot. Jeez. It would have been cheaper just to tear the whole thing out and rebuild it in PVC. And it certainly would have been cheaper and better and less prone to failure to build the whole frickin' thing in PVC. Yeah, live and learn. And if this still doesn't work, I don't know. I'm gonna just tear it all out, get it out of the way? Or will I do it in PVC and spend some more money? What the heck? Anyway, it's a good lesson and hopefully you guys get something from it. So now the next thing to do is to put some water in there, hook the garden hose up, open up these valves that go, well, first off, they go down around the side down there. I think I showed you that already here. Those. Open those up, open the valves here and here, go around the side, and the ones that go up to the 29s on that side, and the ones that go 29 on this side. And that way I can charge this entire system, put water in it, and then shut it all down. And then ideally, I can disconnect the garden hose, disconnect the other end of the garden hose here, and then open these up one tank at a time and drain them, and then use this system to refill them. And that was the whole plan. And I still got enough hose clamps to swap out these plastic ones because a lot of them have failed on me. And I'll look for the ones that have failed and I'll swap those out first and we'll go with that. So the next step is to charge the system, see if we can make this thing work and see if we can make it hold water. And actually the big thing is not just to charge it and then see if it works right away, but to charge it and see if it works a week later. If it's had time to drain itself out and to purge and get air back in and break the siphons, and then the whole thing's a failure that way. So that's how we'll tell. I'll hook it all up, but then we're going to tell for sure next week to find out if that's the case. Hopefully it won't. Hopefully it'll work. Enough time and effort and money has been spent on that dumbass project. But you know, what are you going to do? Well, all right, here we go. So the next step is to charge this drain system with water. That way, ideally, when I open it later, it should just automatically create a siphon. We'll see. So I'm trying to remember how I opened it all up last time. I guess what I can do, we'll just start here. That's the water coming in. There's water and it's very low flow. And then we'll go to that valve, and then we'll go to that valve, and we'll go around the corner and we'll do the 20s first, I guess. Let's see. And we'll start all the way down at the end and work our way back. Sure. Okay, so opening slowly. And then opening slowly. So now, right now, there's water to here and water up to this T, going to that valve and that valve on the middle rack. All right, so we're gonna go sideways right now. Opening slowly. All right. Now all the other valves are shut. We're gonna come around this way because it's just easier. And we'll start with this far one. Now ideally we should start blowing air out of this. Again, opening slowly. And the water level is obviously going to go up some too, but I want to make sure all the air is out. Seems to be already. So maybe there was some air or some water in there still. I don't know if this is going to take a couple tries or not. I'm going to watch the water level go up a little. That way I know water's actually coming in. And there it is. So we can shut this one off now. This one's next. Bubbles, 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 bubbles. These things have just collected a lot of crud. So I just blew some back out. So I'm not putting on a lot of new water in here. I really want to drain these. I got to do a water change, and I've been putting it off to get this damn thing done. So now they're all off on the bottom here. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to turn this one off. This is to all the 5s. Oh, I'm sorry, I said it again. That's to all the 20s. So we'll shut that off. There we go. Now let's come up here and we'll do the right side first. So I'll open that. And here we go. This is the swordtail tank with the Ember Tetras. And slowly. Now this will also tell if those valves are leaking down below, because if they are, then the tanks are going to keep filling while I'm doing the upper tanks here. All right, so let's go back over here to the valves, and I'll turn this one off now. So now we'll open this one, and we'll start with the beta tank. Oh, that one had a lot of air coming out. All right, that one looks done. No more air, off it goes. And then last, and certainly not least, my little Carbensis knuckleheads. These are Aquarium Co-op pre-filters. Got a whole bunch of them. And apparently I'm using one somewhere else. I should have one for that Carbensis tank too. And there is no air coming up out of this. So theoretically, this should all work now. So I'm gonna shut this off, all right? I'm gonna go back over here. I'm gonna shut this one off. And then I can work my way down here. We'll shut this one off. That'll keep water in the system, ideally, all the way up. And then we can shut the hose off here. And then I can remove, I'm gonna leave this. I'll remove the hose at the other end and then use that as the drain end. But to do that, I gotta shut the water pressure off first. Well, all right, so the water's been disconnected out there. This hose is just laying on the lawn now. So we're gonna do this and see if I actually get a siphon. I'm gonna do the low ones first. They're gonna be the most challenged, and we'll talk about that when we get there. But in the meantime, so the low ones go, if you recall, through here, off this way, and around the corner. So first thing I wanna do is open the garden hose. Now remember, there's no water coming out. In fact, the water's gonna start draining out. That was still in the hose. Then I'm gonna open this one here. And what that'll do is that'll drain up to here. That's gonna drain all that. And it's gonna drain this to here. Now I'm gonna open this, and that's gonna drain around the corner. Now theoretically, oh shit, I'm gonna close that. Yeah, I think I might have blown it. I don't know if I'm gonna break the siphon doing that or not. What I wanna do is open one of the tank valves, then come back and open these valves. Start that siphon. Let's do that. This is closed. That one's still open, so I've already broken that drain. Let's go, well, you know what? I think I can recharge that really quick with tank water. That's open. If I open this and open this, it should start draining tank water. Let's see. Put my thumb there as a marker. Yeah, it looks like water's going down. All right, so we'll go back here. will shut. I'm going to shut it off down here. Then that should fill this mess here. Okay, so that's off now. So all this is off, everything's off. So the first thing and this is still on. So it's stopped though, so we can shut that off now. So the first thing I'm going to do then is open a tank valve. Tank valve's open. Okay, now let's go open those valves. God, you could have 100 valves in this system. Almost as many of those hose clamps, which would be ridiculous. Okay, now I'm going to open this one here, the one that coming around the corner. There we go. And now I'm going to open this. Now let's go see if it's flowing. So we don't have to go to the lawn to see. We just go back to the tank. Let's put a thumb mark there. Let's see if it's going down. You know, it looks like it's going down. All right, I'm going to let it go down for a while and I'll pick you back up. Now I said this was challenging for the bottom tanks because they're really close to the floor. The pickup is right about where my finger is. It's got to come up, it's got to go over the top of the tank and back down to go out. So that's a lot. We're fighting gravity that way. We've got the suction going now, so hopefully that's going to do it. But we're fighting gravity, so it takes time. It's not going to go fast. And theoretically, I could hook up the inlet and start dribbling water in here and do that kind of a water change. That'd be coming out of that valve right there. Do that kind of a water change where I've got some inflow, some outflow. And that inflow would also help stir up stuff that this thing will pick up. And I've got this on here in this tank. It's a big deal because there's shrimp, there's small Mickey Mouse platies in here too. And I don't want to dump those onto the lawn. That would suck. And I've also got some cool little orange Venezuelan cories in here too. But you can see it is going down. It's dropped, I don't know, only about an inch or so. I guess I could time it, take a look at that away. So when this tank is down, I'm gonna say 4 inches or so, which would be about 20-25%, be about where my fingers are. I'm going to open the next valve, then shut this one off and work my way down the line that way. Hopefully that works. And when I'm done with the last tank down there, I will shut off the valve around the corner first, and that should keep this whole thing charged, ideally. I don't know, maybe my physics is way off base here. Maybe that's why it's not holding water like I thought it ought to. I don't want to have to charge this every time. Obviously, you saw it's not a big deal to charge it, but it's not something I wanted to have to do every time. So now we'll see if it works. I just opened this one and shut this one off, and I'm down about, I guess, I don't know, 3.5, 4 inches. It's probably good for now. So now we'll do this one. We'll watch it come down. You ought to be able to see a little line right there. That's where the water came up to. So we're already down about, I don't know, maybe 3/8 of an inch. One thing you want to make damn sure of is when you start draining the upper tanks, that everything on the bottom is turned off, particularly the one around the corner that isolates this whole site. Otherwise, water's gonna start backing up from these upper tanks and coming out down below and overfilling these tanks if you're not paying attention. I've done it back when I first built this system. I was trying to get things going. I did that a couple times. So number of days since last overflow, like it was 0. Well, here's something I just figured out too. I thought I'd share with you. I was draining this tank here, and it had, I don't know, 1/2 inch or so to go. And I thought I'd open this tank, and then I thought, why not open one more and see if we can drain 3 at a time? This one started filling back up because the pressure on the water on these 2 tanks pushing down, this was the path of least resistance. I'm sure it might have picked up the flow going out a little bit, but it came back up in here to about 1 inch. So I had to start. I shut these 2 tanks back off and left this one to drain to get it down. And I thought, you know, I usually drain these down to about the top of that 5 gallon. So I ended up finishing off draining that one down with the Mickey Mouse platies, and then this one to also to the top of the 5. So that's usually my mark. So that's where I'm at right now. On this last tank, I thought I would try and speed things up a bit, and I stuck this little submersible pump up inside, hoping it would speed it up some. Did it? Yeah, a little bit. Does this whole thing work at the lower, for the lower rack? Yeah, kinda. It's slow. So it gives you plenty of time to do other stuff like clean filters and whatever. I don't know. Was it worth it for the lower one? I don't know. I mean, it was a hell of a lot faster just getting a siphon going on the garden hose with my little drain rig that I made out of PVC. I'm sure most of you have seen that. This thing. I stick the garden hose at this end, drag it out to the front lawn. This thing keeps little things from getting sucked up. There's the ball valve, turn on, turned off. I turned it off between So when I take this out of one tank, put it in the next tank, I don't break the siphon. And this is way faster. I don't know. Was it worth it? I'm gonna let you be the judge of that. It was damned expensive to do what I did. Even in PVC, I think it'd be the same kind of thing. Almost need an inline pump that would draw water through the system. And I tried something like that once. One you hook up to a drill motor. It was a piece of, I think I ended up throwing it away because I don't know, it's stripped or whatever. It was garbage. That wasn't any better. But some sort of like, you know, a decent inline pump might work where you can get a suction going out of the tanks and pushing the flow out the garden hose. It is going down faster shoving that little pump in there. That helps. Makes me feel a little better about this whole fiasco. Well, it's not a fiasco. It's kind of this whole mess. So this tank's just about done. And then we'll start on the top. Ideally, that should be faster because, I don't know, we're almost 4 feet above the ground where that pre-filter is. That's where the water's going to go up. So it'll come back down, and once it starts flowing down and out, gravity should pull it along a little faster. All right, so we're done down here. So the first thing I'm going to do is shut this one off here. This isolates the whole bottom. And then I'll come back around and shut the one off to this last tank. There we are. Now we can start on the top. We'll see how that goes. Let's go around the back again. We'll start with these guys. And I'm going to stir up a bunch of that stuff and see if it picks it up. So I'm going to open the tank first. Then I got to go back around and open this side isolation valve. Open the tank. It comes around from here. So we'll open this valve. Now it should be draining. Let's see if any of that stuff's getting picked up. And it is. Oh yeah, I feel suction with my fingers, so yep, so that's working. And that should work a hell of a lot faster. If I had this to do all over again, when I first set up this whole mess, a couple of these 29s were used, so I don't know if it would have been a good idea, but drill the tanks, put overflows in. They're back to back, so they'd have to go out the front, I suppose, and that's probably all right. And then put a fill system, so that way all I would need to do, because this rack kind of landlocked here in the garage, I'd still have to run a hose out, but then I could run fresh water into it and let that just go up the overflows, and that would solve most of it right there. But coulda, woulda, shoulda. Sure you've heard that one before. It's going down a little faster up here, not much. Coming out of the garden hose out on the lawn, it's coming out really slow. Well, let's wrap this mess up. Yeah, where to start? I think somewhere along the line I asked would I do it again for this permanent drain line system up here on the rack with the lower level, the upper level. And I did that little short saying this video was coming. And I had somebody chime in, and I've had this suggestion before also. You should use PEX. And PEX is for plumbing. It runs hot and cold water, and I think it's red and blue. It's color coded. And the fittings are special. And I think there's some special tools involved. I'm not really sure. And this person was saying, and somebody else said, it's cheaper. And okay, maybe. But after sitting down night before last, my wife and I was talking to her about it, and telling her the whole story, and also reminding her, and I'll remind you guys too, that permanent drain system over there on the 75-gallon tank works a dream. All right, here's the difference. And she brought this up, and I don't know for certain, but she may be right. Now remember, gravity plays a big part of this. All the drains are on the other side of these tanks, except for up top here. The water's got to go up and then back down and out, right? And it's a real slow flow. And I think what's going on, and this was at Kathy's suggestion, that this is only half-inch. It's nominal half-inch. This is irrigation or drip irrigation line. This black line. Now over there, where's my finger? Over there, that is all 3/4 inch PVC. So it's got much bigger inside diameter. And you know what? That could very well be the issue. That this drip irrigation was too small. That I needed to start with bigger line. What it comes down to is, I think I asked, is it a bust, or would I do it again, or would I change it? Well, yeah, if I was to do this again, I would, and knowing, after my wife's suggestion, I'd probably do it all with 3/4 inch PVC. What I would prefer would have been to drill all the tanks and run fresh water in, like the system I've got up there for running fresh water in and down here, right? and then just turn those on and let it overflow drilled into the sides or ends of the tanks. That would have been the way to go. Didn't know. Live and learn, because I did all this when I was just getting back into this. I was real new. Drilling tanks, I think I might have heard something about it. It seems like it scared the hell out of me. Now I think I'd give it a shot, Now these 2 tanks up front, they're older, maybe not so good. I know when tanks, I've heard Paul Stingray talk about, when tanks get really old, the glass tends to shatter when you try drilling them. So, oh well. But all the other tanks were new. The 229s on the other side, these 20s here, all new. So it would have been an easier process to try and drill those. Regardless, would I do it again? No. Hell no. This was a total bust. I ended up taking my drain rig that I showed you guys, that black PVC 1/2 inch with the screen on the end of it. And I ended up finished draining the couple tanks down here and then the 429s and also the 2.5s. It was just faster. Yeah, so it was just a total bust. These are the hose clamps. God, how many? 4, 5, 6, probably close to 10 of these. Guess how much these frickin' bags of hose clamps are at Home Depot? They're about almost $19 a piece. That's almost $200, probably over $200 with tax. And these stupid stainless steel hose clamps. Now, fortunately, I've still got a few in bags. I'm taking them all back. Well, and then all the ones that are loose, I'm gonna use to make sure to tighten down the fresh water system. That works. But I think I'm just gonna take the whole damn thing apart, get it out of the way. I'm tired of looking at it. So that's really where I'm at now. It's a drag. It didn't work. It was a great idea. I think initially, I love the way that one works over on the 75. All I gotta do is hook a garden hose up to that, run it out onto the front lawn, open that ball valve right there, quarter turn, and it starts draining just right away. And it's got a good flow too. And then I turn the water on up there and have fresh water coming in. I can run both simultaneously. So I've got fresh water coming in and, old water going out, or just drain it down, shut it off, turn the fresh water on and refill it. My choice. Way better, way more simple. And same thing with this. Just use that drain rig I built out of 1/2 inch PVC with the ball valve and with that screen, so no little fishies or no shrimp gets sucked up, and drop that in the tanks. Start the siphon when the tank's drained. Shut it off, as much as I want when the level's as low as I want it. Shut the ball valve off so as not to break the siphon. Pull it out of one tank, put it in the next tank, even with these little 5s. Open it up, let it drain, close it, into the next tank. All the way down, all the way across, and it's just way more simple. I thought I could simplify the process. It's just not happening. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on this whole mess. I hope you've stuck through all this so you could see the chaos. You could see, what I was up against. Hopefully, you got better suggestions if you're going to do something like this. My main suggestion, if I was to do this over again, I would go with 3/4 inch pipe. I would replicate that over there and do that across. And I think it would seal better. And I think also so that means if it's sealed better, it would stay charged the whole time. And because it's a bigger diameter pipe, it would flow quicker and it would work. But I've already got God knows how much, probably, I don't know, maybe close to $400 in this mess with all the original, the irrigation pipe, the fittings, and then now with all the hose clamps. So anyway, PVC would have been better right off the bat. And I thought about that. And I don't know, I thought this might be easier. Big mistake. PVC, cut and paste. It's really easy. You just cut and paste. PVC cement and a pair of pipe cutters, and the stuff works a dream. So anyway, I guess that's it. That's enough of a rant for right now. I hope you got a kick out of it. Again, I hope you stuck around the whole time. Once again, members, thank you so much for being members. I am so grateful to you. And subscribers also, thank you so much for being subscribers. Y'all got me past that 1K point. Been a couple months now. Kind of cool. Everybody, thanks for looking.